Life is not always calm seas and gentle breezes. Every one of us will face storms, storms of disappointment, storms of loss, storms of uncertainty, storms that shake us to the very core of who we are. The question is not whether the storms will come, because they surely will. The question is, how will we stand when the winds rise and the waves crash against us? Will we crumble, or will we find strength that is greater than the storm itself? When the storms of life come, many people look around and see nothing but darkness. They see the clouds, the rain, and they believe the storm will last forever. But storms are temporary. They may rage, they may terrify, but they will pass. The sun will shine again. Strength is not found in avoiding the storm, but in learning to endure it, trusting that beyond the storm there is a brighter day. Strength for the storms of life does not come from within ourselves alone. Our own strength runs out quickly. We find ourselves weary, burdened, ready to give up. But when we lean on a higher power, when we put our trust in something eternal, we find strength that does not fail. It is in those moments of weakness that we discover a strength greater than anything we could muster on our own. Think of the sailor who faces the fury of the sea. He cannot calm the ocean, but he can trust his anchor. He cannot stop the storm, but he knows where his security lies. In the same way, when life's storms roar against us, we must know where our anchor is. That anchor gives us the courage to keep standing, the hope to keep believing, and the peace to endure, even in the fiercest winds. The storms of life are also teachers. They strip away the unnecessary and reveal what is truly important. They remind us that money, fame, and possessions cannot protect us when the storm strikes. They point us back to the eternal values of love, faith, and character. They remind us that we are not in control, and yet we are never abandoned. Perhaps you are in a storm right now. Perhaps you feel the weight of grief, the sting of betrayal, or the fear of an uncertain future. You wonder if you will make it through. Let me remind you, you are stronger than you think, not because of your own ability, but because there is strength available to you that will never run dry. The same strength that carried others through their darkest nights is available to you right now. When the storms rage, lift your eyes beyond the waves. Do not let fear drown you. Hold on to hope, because storms do not last forever, but the lessons they leave will carry you for a lifetime. You can walk through the storm and come out not broken, but stronger, wiser, and more courageous than you ever imagined. Storms in life are inevitable, but they are always temporary. This is a truth that each of us must face. No matter how carefully we plan, no matter how much we try to shield ourselves, storms will come. They come in the form of disappointments, failures, illnesses, broken relationships, or losses that pierce our hearts. There is not a single person who walks through life untouched by these moments. But while storms are inevitable, they are not permanent. When you are standing in the middle of a storm, it can feel as if it will never end. The sky is dark, the winds are howling, and the rain seems relentless. Every step forward feels like a battle, and hope begins to fade. But remember this, storms are part of nature, and they always have a beginning and an end. They may roar with fury, but eventually the clouds break and the sun shines again. In the same way, the storms of life may seem overwhelming, but they are passing seasons, not permanent conditions. Think of the changing seasons of the year. Winter may feel long and harsh, but spring always comes. The same principle applies to the storms of life. Heartache may feel endless, but healing begins to take root. Loneliness may seem unbearable, but new connections and fresh beginnings appear. Financial struggles may weigh you down, but opportunities to rise again present themselves. The storm is never the final chapter. It is only a page in the story. Too often when people are caught in life's storms, they lose perspective. They begin to believe that their current situation defines their entire future. They allow fear and despair to convince them that the storm will never lift. But the truth is, no storm lasts forever. The rain eventually stops, the winds grow quiet, and calm returns. What you must do in the storm is hold on, endure, and refuse to let the temporary darkness blind you to the hope of a brighter tomorrow. Consider the great oak tree. When the storm rages, its branches bend and sway, but its roots hold firm. It does not uproot easily because it is grounded deep in the soil. You and I must learn from that tree. We may bend under the weight of trials, but if our roots are deep in faith, hope, and perseverance, the storm will not destroy us. We will outlast it because the storm is temporary, but the strength we gain from enduring it will remain. There is also a hidden purpose in storms. They test us, refine us, and prepare us for greater things. Without storms, we might remain comfortable, complacent, or untested. But with storms, we discover resilience we never knew we had. We learn patience. We develop empathy for others who suffer. We build character that no calm day could ever create. The storm that feels unbearable today may be the very experience that equips you for tomorrow's opportunities. So when the storm clouds gather, remind yourself of this truth. It is only for a season. Just as the sun breaks through after the fiercest storm, joy, peace, and clarity will return to your life. Hold on with courage. Do not give up when the winds rise. Instead, plant your feet firmly, lift your eyes, and know that the storm will pass. And when it does, you will not be the same person who entered it. You will be stronger, deeper, and more prepared for the road ahead. True strength is found not in ourselves alone, but in leaning on a higher power. We live in a world that constantly tells us to rely only on our own ability, our own intelligence, and our own determination. We are told to stand on our own 2 feet, to make our own way, and to never depend on anyone. And while self-discipline and responsibility are important, there will come moments when your own strength is simply not enough. Life has a way of bringing us to our knees, showing us that no matter how strong we think we are, storms can break us if we rely only on ourselves. Think about it. A person may be strong physically, but what about when illness strikes? A person may be intelligent, but what about when confusion and uncertainty cloud the path forward? A person may be wealthy, but what about when grief or loneliness invades the heart? Money cannot buy peace. Knowledge cannot erase pain. Physical strength cannot shield the soul from sorrow. These are the moments when we discover the limits of our human strength. But here is the good news. Beyond our limits, there is a greater strength available to us, a strength that does not weaken, does not fail, and does not grow weary. A strength that comes not from within ourselves, but from leaning on a higher power, on the one who never leaves us nor forsakes us. When our hands are weak, his hands are strong. When our hearts are broken, his love restores. When our steps falter, his guidance steadies us. Think of a child learning to walk. The child stumbles, falls, and cries. But when the father holds that child's hand, suddenly the child can walk further, stand taller, and move with more courage. Not because the child has suddenly become stronger, but because the father's strength is now supporting him. In the same way, when we lean on a higher power, we are lifted by strength beyond our own. It is in weakness that this truth becomes clear. We often think weakness is something to be ashamed of, but weakness is the very place where divine strength is revealed. When you come to the end of yourself, you finally see the beginning of God's power. When you realize you cannot carry the burden alone, you discover that you were never meant to carry it by yourself in the first place. History is full of people who found their strength not in their own ability, but in their faith. Leaders who faced impossible odds, families who endured tragedy, ordinary people who walked through extraordinary suffering. All of them stood not because they were powerful on their own, but because they leaned on a source of strength far greater than themselves. That strength is available to you as well. The storms of life are not meant to reveal how strong you are. They are meant to show you where your strength truly comes from. If you depend only on yourself, you will eventually run dry. But if you draw strength from a higher power, you will find a well that never runs empty. You will discover peace in the middle of chaos, hope in the middle of despair, and courage in the face of fear. So the next time life brings you to your knees, don't see it as a sign of defeat. See it as the perfect place to find strength greater than your own. Lean on the one whose power is unshakable, whose love is unending, and whose strength never fails. Then even in the fiercest storms you will stand, not because of who you are, but because of who is holding you up. Anchors of faith and hope sustain us when the storms rage. When the winds howl and the waves crash against the shore, a ship without an anchor will drift aimlessly, tossed in every direction until it shatters against the rocks. The anchor does not stop the storm, it does not calm the sea, but it holds the ship steady until the storm passes. In the same way, when the storms of life come, and they surely will, we need anchors that keep us from drifting into despair, fear, or hopelessness. Faith is one of those anchors. Faith is the assurance that even when you cannot see the way forward, there is one who can. Faith does not mean the storm disappears. It means you trust that the storm does not have the final word. Faith whispers to your heart that the same power that has carried others through their darkest nights will carry you too. Faith steadies you when everything else feels uncertain, reminding you that you are not abandoned in the storm. Hope is another anchor. Hope is the belief that tomorrow can be better than today, that the clouds will part, and that joy can return even after the deepest sorrow. Hope is not naive optimism. It is the lifeline that keeps you from drowning when fear tries to pull you under. Without hope, storms leave people broken. But with hope, you find the courage to keep going, even when the waves rise higher. Hope tells you, hold on, this is not the end. Together, faith and hope form a powerful anchor. Faith looks upward, trusting in divine strength. Hope looks forward, believing in brighter days. When you are anchored by both, no storm can destroy you. You may bend, you may sway, but you will not be swept away. Consider the stories of people who have endured incredible trials. The mother who lost a child but clung to her faith, believing she would see her loved one again. The man who faced bankruptcy but held on to hope that his life was not over and eventually built something stronger. The young woman who endured rejection and failure but kept her faith in her purpose and her hope in her future until doors finally opened. These are not fairy tales. They are testimonies of anchors at work in real lives. Without anchors, we are vulnerable to the pull of fear. Fear tells us the storm will last forever. Fear convinces us to give up, to stop fighting, to let go. But faith and hope push back against fear. They remind us that storms are temporary, that strength is available, and that there is meaning even in hardship. They give us stability when everything else is shaking. Ask yourself today, what is your anchor? When life shakes you, what holds you steady? If you anchor yourself only in possessions, popularity, or success, those anchors will fail because storms have a way of stripping them away. But if you anchor yourself in faith and hope, you have something unshakable, something storms cannot destroy. When you feel like giving up, remember that the anchor is doing its work, even if you can't see it. Deep beneath the surface, it holds you steady. And though the waves crash and the wind roars, the anchor does not let go. Faith and hope are the same. You may not always feel them, but they are holding you, keeping you steady until the storm passes. So when the storms of life come, drop your anchor. Plant your faith deep in the promises that do not fail. Hold your hope firmly in the future that is brighter than your present pain. Then stand with courage, knowing that while the storm may rage, you will endure because you are anchored, and those anchors will hold. Life's storms strip away the unnecessary and reveal what truly matters. When skies are clear and the sun is shining, it is easy to become distracted by the noise of life. We fill our days with busyness, our minds with worry, and our hearts with the pursuit of things that cannot last. Comfort can deceive us into thinking that possessions, achievements, or recognition are the foundation of a meaningful life. But then the storm comes, and suddenly the things we once clung to no longer seem so important. Storms have a way of peeling back the layers, removing the illusions and exposing the truth. When tragedy strikes, when health fails, when relationships are tested, we begin to see what really holds value. Money may buy convenience, but it cannot buy peace in the middle of grief. Success may bring applause, but it cannot comfort you when you feel alone in the night. Storms remind us that life is fragile, and that what endures are not material possessions, but the unseen treasures of faith, love, and character. Consider a house battered by a hurricane. The paint may peel, the windows may shatter, and the furniture may be ruined. But if the foundation is strong, the house still stands. In the same way, storms strip away the surface decorations of our lives and reveal the strength of our foundation. If we have built our lives on shallow pursuits, the storm exposes it. But if we have built on what is eternal, integrity, love, hope, and faith, then we discover that we can endure because our foundation is unshakable. Storms also purify our priorities. They ask us questions we often avoid. What really matters to you? Who will you lean on? Where does your hope come from? In the quiet after the storm, many people find themselves holding tighter to family, cherishing relationships they once took for granted. Others find their faith deepened, realizing that the storm revealed a need for strength beyond themselves. Still others discover a renewed purpose, choosing to live with gratitude and intentionality rather than being consumed by trivial pursuits. History gives us countless examples. Families who lost everything in natural disasters but found joy in simply being together. Survivors of illness who testify that the storm changed their perspective, teaching them to appreciate each day as a gift. Individuals who faced failure but came out with humility, wisdom, and resilience that success alone could never have given them. These testimonies remind us that storms, painful as they are, can serve as refining fires that shape us into better, stronger people. The truth is, storms expose the heart. They reveal whether our confidence is rooted in temporary things or eternal truths. They force us to let go of what we cannot control and cling to what truly matters. And though we may resist them, storms often leave us with clearer vision. We emerge knowing that life is not about how much we own, how much we achieve, or how much recognition we receive. Life is about faith that endures, love that sustains, and character that stands when everything else falls away. If you are in a storm right now, it may feel as though everything is being taken from you, but do not despair. Perhaps this storm is stripping away what was never meant to hold you in the first place. Perhaps it is teaching you to let go of the temporary so you can grasp the eternal. When the clouds lift and the sun breaks through, you will see that what remains is stronger, purer, and truer than what was lost. So welcome the lesson of the storm. Let it refine you. Let it point you back to what really matters. And when it passes, walk forward with renewed vision, anchored in the truth that storms do not weaken the foundation of a life built on eternal values. They reveal it. Enduring storms makes us stronger, wiser, and more courageous. No one enjoys walking through hardship. No one welcomes pain, loss, or struggle. Yet it is often in those very moments of trial that we grow the most. A storm may shake us, but it also shapes us. It may break down our comfort, but it builds up our character. What we learn in the storm cannot be taught in the sunshine. Strength is not developed in ease. It is forged in difficulty. A muscle only grows when it is pushed, stretched, and tested. The same is true for the soul. If life were always easy, we would remain untested and unprepared. But storms force us to dig deeper than we thought possible. They reveal reserves of strength that we never knew we had. They show us that we can endure more than we imagined. And that endurance becomes the foundation for a stronger tomorrow. Wisdom, too, is born in the storm. When we face setbacks, we begin to see life from a different perspective. We recognize the fragility of our plans and the limits of our control. We learn humility, realizing that we cannot always dictate outcomes, but we can choose how we respond. Storms teach us patience, empathy, and discernment. They strip away arrogance and replace it with compassion for others who suffer. The lessons of hardship often stay with us longer than the lessons of success because they are carved deep into our hearts. And then there is courage. True courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to keep moving forward despite fear. Storms demand courage because they confront us with the unknown. We cannot always see the way out, but we take one step at a time, believing that the storm will pass. That courage grows with each trial we endure. The more storms we face, the more confidence we gain that we can withstand the next one. Courage is not built in calm waters. It is built in the fury of the waves. Think of the great figures of history who are remembered not for their ease, but for their endurance. Leaders who stood firm in times of war. Parents who held families together through poverty. Survivors who turned their pain into purpose. Their greatness did not come from avoiding storms, but from enduring them. Their strength, wisdom, and courage were all forged in the fires of trial. Perhaps you have walked through storms that felt unbearable. Perhaps you wondered if you would make it, and yet here you are. You survived what once threatened to destroy you. You carry scars, yes, but those scars are proof of endurance. They are not signs of weakness. They are evidence of resilience. They remind you that you are stronger than you once believed, and that the storm could not defeat you. Every storm you endure adds to your testimony. It equips you to encourage others who are facing their own storms. It gives you a voice of experience, a heart of empathy, and a spirit of resilience. Your survival becomes someone else's hope. What once seemed like senseless suffering becomes a source of strength, not only for you, but for those who walk the path after you. So do not despise the storm. See it as a teacher, as a refiner, as a builder of strength, wisdom, and courage. Though the winds may roar and the rain may pour, know that you are being shaped into someone stronger than you were before. And when the storm has passed, you will not only stand, you will stand taller with a heart that is wiser and a spirit that is braver.